Hello and welcome to an Envato Tuts Plus tutorial. I'm Adi Pordila, and today I'm going to try and answer a question that probably a lot of you have asked. What is better, Sketch or Adobe XD? Now, these are two apps that probably every web designer out there knows about. Sketch has been around for a while. XD is kind of the new kid on the block. So in this tutorial, I'm going to try and answer this and also give you my own personal opinion on which is best for me and why is that. Now, when we ask what is better, Sketch or XD, I don't think there is an answer that's 100% correct, because what works best for me might not work best for you. So it's really about each individual and how they're used to working and what kind of tools they're using and what kind of computer they're using. All of that have to be taken into consideration. Now, Sketch has been released in 2010, so yeah, 8 years ago. It has a lot of history. It went through a lot of versions. I believe I started working in Sketch when it was version 3. Right now it's version 5. So yeah, it got through a lot of iterations, and quite frankly, it turned out to be a really, really amazing product. I've been using Sketch. I switched from Photoshop to Sketch because back then XD was not around. It was probably just starting out as Project Comet, if I remember correctly, from Adobe. So it was just in its infancy. But Sketch, yeah, it came out to be like an amazing replacement for Photoshop, which I've used for many, many years before for, basically website design, because that's what I was doing, even though Photoshop at its core is mainly used for image editing and image processing. But Adobe came up with XD, which is, well, meant for UI and UX design. So Sketch was released in 2010, as I was saying. XD was launched in 2016, so 2 years ago. As you can see already, Sketch has 6 years ahead of XD, in which time it managed to create a really amazing community behind it. A lot of designers use Sketch and also are developing plugins for Sketch. This is one of the core features of Sketch, its support for third-party plugins. Now let's talk about pricing. This is also a very important aspect. Sketch right now starts at $99 per year. That's basically for the app itself and for a year of updates. Once you purchase Sketch, you own it forever, but you only get updates for a year. So if that year passes, you can still use Sketch, but you won't be able to update it to the newest versions. For that, you would have to renew your license, which is $99 per year. XD, on the other hand, is free. It is free. It has been recently made free by Adobe. Initially, it was part of their Adobe CC suite of apps, and you needed a CC subscription to be able to access XD, but now it's been made free. And the free plan, actually, let me show you on their website. Their free plan comes with the app, of course. You can use the app however you want, but you have some limitations on the shared prototypes, design specs, and cloud storage. And also, the typekit is limited to just a few fonts. If you purchase as a single app, then you have some upgrades here as well. But if you're just starting out, you don't need, for example, the full typekit portfolio, or you don't need unlimited shared prototypes, then the free version is definitely enough. Now let's talk about platforms, because this is where things suddenly become black and white. And that's because Sketch is Mac only. So if you don't have a Mac, you cannot use it. And Macs, as we all know, are, well, pretty expensive. And this might be a deterrent for most people. They're not going to simply get a Mac just to work on Sketch. They're going to stick with what they know and what they have, which is a Windows PC, in which case their only option is to use XD, which is cross-platform. It works on both macOS and Windows. So yay for XD. Now let's see about the main differences between XD and Sketch. First of all, and this is a big one, XD doesn't support plugins. Sketch does, and it has a huge library of plugins made by the Sketch community, basically. On Sketch, you can get plugins to do all sorts of things, like, for example, automatically add padding and margin to specific elements, or change the aspect ratio of an element to a predefined or a manual one. The examples can go on and on. The Sketch community is the Sketch plugin community is very, very large. XD, on the other hand, being relatively new, still doesn't have plugins, doesn't support plugins. It probably will in the future, but right now in 2018, it does not. So, if you're the kind of person who prefers to extend the core functionality of an app using plugins, then, Sketch might be for you. Something else that I want to mention is that XD is faster. And wow, it is faster than Sketch. Let me give you a quick demo here. I'm going to open XD, and then I'm going to open Sketch, just so you can see how fast how fast XD loads. So XD, here we go, and it's up. Now Sketch, on the other hand, here we go, and yeah. Okay, so XD is definitely faster, and I'm not just talking about how fast these load once you launch them. I'm talking about the overall speed. XD is built differently. It's always, much snappier. It doesn't get bogged down by, large documents and stuff. Sketch does that, unfortunately. And what I have right here, this is a MacBook Pro. It's early 2013, so it's a 5-year-old MacBook. It runs the latest version of macOS, but still, even on this machine, XD is very fast compared to Sketch. I'm having a lot of trouble lately working in Sketch simply because even a simple document is, it's sluggish. It's always laggy. It's always, I always get my mouse cursor, it's not fluid, right? With XD, it's a whole different ballgame. And that's, I think, the main reason that I like working in XD so much is its sheer speed and responsiveness. It's just amazing. Now, something else that I want to point to is that XD doesn't have as many features as Sketch. It just doesn't. Of course, it's relatively new, as I said, 2 years old, so it didn't have the time to develop all the features that Sketch has, which was launched back in 2010. So I'm sure that in time, it's going to get those features. But until then, it just doesn't. So if you're used to working in Sketch and being able to quickly do things because of all the integrated features that it has, XD might be a little bit disappointing in this area. An example that I can give you is the way symbols work. So in Sketch, you can basically nest and have symbol overrides. So I can have a button, and on that button I can change the color from symbol to symbol, and I can change the text, I can change images, I can change any kind of element inside that symbol. Well, with XD, it's not as easy, and some of these things that I told you are actually impossible to do in XD, and the list can go on and on. Now let's talk about the visual interface. This is Sketch, and I'm going to create a new document in XD as well. Now, the visual interface, or the UI from XD, is much simpler than the one in Sketch, as you can see here. Of course, in Sketch you can hide these icons in the top, and you can toggle some panels here to have more working room, but XD has a much cleaner interface. I especially love the Assets panel in XD. So, for example, if you're here working along, maybe you have some elements in XD. Let's create a text here, and you want to group this up. Maybe you want to save this color for further use. Well, you can go to your Assets panel, you can add that color here. You can add that character style, and you can also create a symbol out of this, right? So whenever you're going to need that symbol, you can simply copy it from here. And what I love about this is that it has a visual representation of the character style, of the symbol, of the colors, right? It's really, really awesome. Something else I love about XD is the fact that once you use a color from the assets and you decide to change that color, like for example this, let's say I want to make it a brighter red, it updates in all instances where that color is used. So that is super handy. It also works with character styles. So I can change here from, I don't know, regular to bold. And that's going to change in all instances. So this is super, super handy. One thing that I don't see in XD and I miss from Sketch is pages. So Sketch has pages right here that you can use to organize your artboards into, right? So I can create a new page, have different artboards in each page. It's, easier to organize, especially if you're working on a large project and you have a lot of artboards. It's much easier to organize them into pages rather than, just having them all displayed on the infinite canvas here. Now, what about tools? Well, when it comes to tools, XD has some pretty interesting tools. So let me just show you what I'm on about. The first one is the repeat grid. So if I want to make like a series of elements here, instead of just copying and pasting each one and making sure my spacing is correct, what I can do is simply select the element, select repeat grid, and then just drag like this. Up and down, it works on both directions. And I can change the distance, both horizontally and vertically, between all the elements at the same time. I think this is just amazing, a fantastic feature. Of course, if I'm done here and I don't need a grid, I can hit ungroup and I still get those elements. Unfortunately, Sketch doesn't have that. Sketch has a feature that I mentioned previously, and that is symbol overrides. To understand what this is all about, I'm going to give you a simple example. Let me create a button in here, and let me get an icon. Yeah, something like this. So let me create a symbol out of this icon, and let me add another icon. Let's say this, for example. And I'm just going to put it here and create a symbol out of it as well. Okay, so I'm going to select this button, I'm going to group it up, and I'm going to create a symbol. Okay, so with this button, I can duplicate it, and for each individual instance, I can select the new text, like for example, click me, and I can also select the new icon for it. So here are the two icons that I have as symbols in my own document. I can select this one, and this arrow is going to be replaced by the other one. Or if I'm using Sketch libraries, I have access to a whole bunch of libraries just at the click of a button. And this is another feature that I really love about Sketch. Basically, you can create a document with a bunch of symbols in that. You can save that document in any location you want, and then you can go into Sketch Preferences, under Libraries, and you can add that document as a library. So then, you can always, from any document, you can go to Symbols, click on that document/library that you just created, and grab any kind of symbol from there. It's really awesome, and I don't have that functionality in XD. XD has CC libraries, which is okay. You can save colors and character styles and different graphics in there, and you can name your libraries, but it's, in my opinion, is not as good as the Sketch libraries. So what else? Well, XD has better prototyping. Sketch didn't have native prototyping tools until a very recent update, but XD has had it for, I think, since version number 1, and the prototyping in XD is much faster and it's better. So to give you an example, I'm gonna create two artboards here, and I'm gonna put an element here and an element here. All right, so now if we go to prototyping, here, I can basically click on this element, and I can click this artboard, and I can select a transition, an easing. That's pretty nice. And then I can select this one. I can take it from there, and then I can present it nicely. It's pretty simple to use. Now, recently, in a recent update, XD introduced something very interesting that's called overlays and fixed elements. And those features allow you to basically set a fixed element, like a nav bar, for instance. You can set it fixed on the top. So when you're presenting your prototype and you're scrolling through the page, that element stays fixed. And also overlays allow you to create very realistic prototypes by allowing you to move elements around, to make elements appear when you take certain actions. Like, for example, if you had a hamburger menu icon that would open up an off-canvas navigation, you can definitely do that in XD. Sketch, as far as I know, does not have that functionality. I need to talk about exporting options, because exporting options are much better in Sketch than they are in XD. You have a lot more control. So for example, you can select an element, you can click Make Exportable, and you can add as many export options you want here. Different sizes. You can use a prefix or a suffix. You can choose what file type you want. So for instance, you can select this button and export it in 7 different file types. And that is just with a click of a button. It's really, really awesome. XD, well, its export capabilities are pretty limited. Well, you have a window that allows you to choose the format, depending on what you're exporting for. You can also choose the resolution at which you design it. And that's pretty much it. You can't really do much more than that. And something else that's pretty cool are XD specs. Now this is still in beta, but for example, if I go to Share Publish Design Specs, I can create a public link, and then I can open that link and share it with other people. So this would work, for example, if I'm a designer, I create my designs in XD, and then I hand off my designs to a developer, and I send them the link to the specs. So the way specs work is for each element, they give you a lot of information, like, for example, the width, height, position, rotation, the appearance, the color. You can get it from here, border, opacity. If you click on the text, it gives you information about the typography, the font you chose, the weight, the height, the size, the actual content. So you can simply click and everything is copied. Do you want to get the color? Simply click here and the color is copied. So that is very, very interesting. You also, if you don't select anything, you can also get details about the screen size, the colors, all of the colors that are being used, all of the character styles, and so on. It's a very, very interesting feature. Now, here's my personal opinion on Sketch versus XD, because I have used both of these apps. When I was working mainly on my Mac, I used Sketch, of course, but recently I started working more on my Windows machine. So there I used XD for any kind of design I needed to make. So what's my opinion? I would say that XD has a lot of potential. Definitely a lot of potential. I love the speed. I love the overall responsiveness of the application, and I love some of its unique features, like the repeat grid, like even specs. I think this is very, very interesting. I love that assets panel, which lets me, preview all of my assets, colors, typography, character styles, symbols. All of that is great. Now, with that said, I have been using Sketch for a long time, so I'm kind of deeply integrated into this whole ecosystem. I have a lot of files, or well, most of my design files are in Sketch. And even though XD can read Sketch files, it's still buggy at times. And plus, I do love plugins. So I have a few Sketch plugins that I just cannot live without. And so because XD doesn't have plugins, or XD doesn't have functionality that's doing the same thing the plugins are doing, I find it a bit hard to make the switch. So for me personally, I'm gonna stick with Sketch for now. I really hope that the performance improves a little bit and the app gains a little bit more responsiveness and a little bit more speed. But other than that, I'm still extremely happy with Sketch. And as I was saying in the beginning, if you're thinking about switching, or if you are using Photoshop, for instance, and you don't know, should I go for Sketch? Should I go for XD? Well, you can go both ways, I guess, if you have a Mac. Also, XD supports Photoshop files, so you can open your Photoshop files directly in XD. You really have to weigh, what's best for you. If you are willing to pay $100 a year for the updates or for the app itself, as I said, it's really up to you. I hope that with this video I gave you, some good information to help you decide. So let me ask you this: what software are you using right now? Is it Sketch, XD, Figma, whatever it is? Let us know down in the comments, and also let us know your thoughts on Sketch versus XD. Which one would you use if you were, for example, just starting out? Well, thank you very much for watching this tutorial. I hope it was useful. I'm Adi Pordila, and until next time, take care.